What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome into another episode of the Triple Play Fantasy Baseball Show, a proud member of Underdog and the Underdog Fantasy family. And if you use promo code TRIPLE over at Underdog Fantasy, you'll get a deposit match up to $100 using that code. Fantasy football drafts in full effect right now. Why not get free money to draft with? So if you've never used Underdog, go use our code and check them out today. Back at you guys tonight. We got another episode for you. Sorry if you guys missed us last week. We did a Palazzo podcast crossover episode that's actually on the Palazzo podcast feed. So if you guys want to hear us with the Palazzo crew, go check out Palazzo podcast anywhere that you get podcasts or their YouTube channel. And you can kind of get the dose of us we had with them last week. It was a great episode. But back with you guys tonight, just the Triple Play crew. We got Marty Party. We got Doc. And we got Lil Cheesecake in the house. Marty Party just in time. Assuming your power came back on.
Yeah, don't run two separate air conditioning systems at the same time in a house that was built in 1920. So just had to, flick the switch back on. So we're fully up. And more importantly than that, today I watched Jason Foley go 0-2 on Bryce Harper in the 9th inning. I turn to my girlfriend and I say, would you throw him a strike right now or would you try to throw him a ball? She goes, I would throw him a ball. I said, me too. Jason Foley, of course, tried to go right after Bryce Harper and he hits a home run. And just unbelievable. But hey, first time I got to see him play. That was awesome. Shout out to Bryce Harper.
And you got to
He's
see
pretty good.
Tariq Skubal versus the Cy Young favorite, I guess, in the NL, Ranger Suarez, or he's one of the co-favorites right now. Can't beat that. Especially she surprised you with tickets today, right?
Yeah, I got the tickets. I mean, and Skubal is legit. This is my third time seeing him in real life. Like this version of Skubal, he's incredible.
I have to ask you, Marty, because we're very public with our opinions on this as a podcast. You're a Detroit Tigers fan. Does it pain you inside that you were not as all in on Tariq Skubal from the start of the offseason as you are now? Because he looks like, I mean, obviously he's the Cy Young favorite in the American League and looks like a legit stud.
Yeah, I do not have any shares of him. I will say this. I would prefer for him to be good in real life and me not have him than me have him a bunch of places, and not be it.
It's a good trade-off.
But yeah, it's worth seeing the Detroit Tigers every fifth day to watch him pitch. The other 4 days, I don't know if you're a Flaherty guy, but Skubal for sure.
Flaherty's a beast too. Flaherty's looking good.
He's been great.
Yeah, he's probably I would imagine a trade deadline piece for the Tigers. So. You got to capitalize on that while you can.
I would assume Scott Harris isn't going to do like what the old big heads did. But anyway, enough of me.
Well, we're having Marty's here and his Detroit Tigers fandom. We also have LC and Doc who are going head to head right now in our home league. It's a battle to the end here as it's a ruthless battle. Art just lost Edwin Diaz for the week, and he can't put him on his IL. So he's already cursed before the show. Was not happy about it. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing tonight?
Doing pretty well. As of Tuesday night, I have a lead on Art, but I've had more pitchers go than him. But shout out Cole Irvin for that -10.
Cole Irvin, see, I didn't even check my scores yet. I just picked him up today.
I'm breaking news to Art on the podcast.
I wasn't even going to pick him up, but I was like, he's been pitching well. It's at home. I wasn't even going to play him. This is what happens when you don't have Edwin Diaz. This is what happens. Edwin Diaz, you cheating? I don't even know. Was he cheating? Maybe he got railroaded.
It's crazy that he has to cheat to get his confidence back.
I'm telling you, man. Though that ump was out to get him. You saw it on his face. And he said, I was lip reading him just like John Boy. He said, I'm here to screw Art's fantasy baseball team. The ump said it. The ump said it. And Diaz was like, why do I got to do it?
Well, let's talk about Let's talk about some baseball going on right now and just kind of things that have been happening since we last talked to you guys. I want to lead off with a comment that Eddie brought in here because I think this is a very relevant topic. We were talking about it before the show a little bit. Hunter Brown is reborn. I want you guys to tell me, don't tell me how many leagues you're in, but how many leagues that you were in was Hunter Brown a free agent on the wire? Because I can tell you, as at the time what I thought was a kind of get anything I could for him. He looked completely busted. And then he's ditched throwing his fastball nearly the same amount he was. And he looks like the pitcher we thought we were getting. Was Hunter Brown dropped in a lot of your guys' leagues?
All of them.
All of the ones you're in. Okay.
I think all of them. He was dropped.
Yeah, I personally dropped him in the infamous 10-team league. He was scooped up. In Glarf, he was dropped. And then Lucas Beria, I think he put about $58 on him when he was his worst. And this is why Lucas wins so many goddamn leagues. Like if he makes a move, I pay attention to it because it's 9 times out of 10, it's the right move. So he's bearing all the fruit of that. But yeah, I've dropped him, and I have him a couple gladiators, which I don't know how I feel because it was so bad at the beginning. I don't know if it can come back, but hey, he's from Michigan. He went to Wayne State in downtown Detroit. I'm a fan.
So it kind of opens up the general question. How long do you guys feel is the right amount of time to give someone of his caliber, someone that was drafted? Would you say he was maybe like a top 8 round pick or so? I don't remember his ADP at the top of my head.
That sounds about right.
I think he was later. I think he was going around pick 175 to pick 200. He was like a 12th or 13th round pick.
So somebody like him, okay, so he's going maybe the 12th or 13th round. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like that was an adequate amount of time and that no one should feel, even though you see the results, that someone like that deserves longer than what we were giving him to turn it around? Because he seems like he made the one switch was just cutting the amount of his fastball usage and upping his secondaries, and it's transformed him into the pitcher that he's been over the last month plus. And that's where I'm kind of curious. Like, hey, I know, Marty, you talked about him as one of kind of your favorite value for the Astros. We had the Javier Hunter Brown debate, and he's performing like what you thought he was going to do. Is this kind of change your mind in the future of someone like him, maybe giving him more time before you drop him?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, especially when they're this young, and you've seen a little bit of promise. The Astros obviously know what they're doing with pitching. And Yusei Kikuchi, who's somebody I want us to talk about, or maybe we can just briefly talk about him now. He's gone a full month of a 7 ERA, right? So are people now? His xFIP is 3.7, so he's still performing, or at least the underlying number says he's still doing well. But he's kind of hit that mark where are we going to start? Are we cutting Yusei after a month of being awful? It's kind of the same thing with Brown.
I think this is league context. Like Kikuchi's a little bit older, which is why I don't give him as much of the benefit of the doubt. He had an Alek Manoah-like start to the beginning of the year. 3 innings, 8 hits, 5 earned at Texas. Then he had the 9 earned run games at Kansas City. But after that, I mean, 2 earned or less in 4 out of his last 6 outings. I think if you're in a 15-team league, you can be a little bit annoyed if you cut him. But in any other format below that, he wasn't helping you at all. And this is what Alek Manoah did at the beginning of last season and got optioned. I think that kind of played a little bit of recency bias it's not a top 4 or 5 round pick, more like 8 to 10. But, to me, his floor was just so low.
And this also goes back to, if you're not making bad cuts, you're not being aggressive enough with your team. The whole way to run your squad is to be aggressive early. Here's his earned runs. His first 6 starts, 0,
You say
5.
Kikuchi? You say Kikuchi?
No, Brown.
Hunter
Brown.
Okay.
Yeah, Hunter Brown with his drop early in the season. Now you're trying to be aggressive. He gave up 0 earned runs to the Yankees. I think that was on
that spring training.
Yeah. Oh, that's spring training. Okay. Yeah. So that he has 5 at Texas, 9 at KC, 2 at Atlanta, 2 against Atlanta, 3 at Washington, and then 6 against Cleveland. So it's like after that 6 against Cleveland, when he's sitting at like 13 ERA, it's like, if you don't drop him, then you would have to believe in something pretty deep to not drop him after that, I think. Yeah, he had just missed a turn in the rotation. I think they had skipped him or something because he didn't pitch from the 21st to the 30th. So
yeah, he was sent down. Down, and then Blanco took over, and then there was a couple more injuries, and so he was able to come back.
Yeah, but I think at the end of the day, what I think it shows me is if Hunter Brown or someone like him is going into the season, someone you strongly believe in, then you got to give him a little bit more time. Obviously, the results were bad. I know some people have talked about, hey, maybe if you have the space, you just keep him on your bench until you see something from him, and then you give him a chance to go back in your lineup before actually taking those bad ratios from him, or taking those negative outings in points leagues. But I obviously regret it. At the same time, like, we have 3 bench spots in our home league, and I wasn't going, or 3 bench spots in our home league, and it's like, am I going to use one of those bench spots on someone I'm not going to be playing? It's a kind of it's a context thing. But Hunter Brown definitely looking like a great pickup for those that got him. Just like Jack Flaherty, Hunter Brown, players that might have started slow, but then really turned it around.
Well, no, Blanco's been a pretty good pickup.
Yeah, but he started fast. He started out with looking great, just like Garrett Crochet.
You're talking about that.
I'm talking about guys that maybe people were kind of hyping up going into the year. They started out slow and they were dropped, and then you could pick them up.
Gotcha.
Those were the first 2 that came to mind, Hunter Brown and Jack Flaherty. But there are other players we want to talk about tonight too. A player that Art and I were actually talking about a lot before we started the show was Spencer Horwitz of the Toronto Blue Jays, and he slotted in the top of that lineup. And I was comparing him to kind of like a earlier career Brandon Nimmo. Nimmo's hitting for double-digit home runs right now, but he was a great OBP guy. And Spencer Horwitz right now, looking like the real deal. He's got 16.7% walk rate and an over 500 OBP right now. And obviously only has 2 home runs, so that's necessarily not the best thing, but he had it was a 2-homer game just a couple days ago. This looks like a guy that, especially in points leagues, could be just a major asset. He's not striking out a ton. I believe just about 11%, if I looked at that correctly. An 11.1% strikeout rate so far this year. Guys, Spencer Horwitz, is he a must-add player in 12 or 15 team leagues?
I think so. I totally agree with you. Just look at it. Him coming up, he was a hitter for high average, all coming through the minor leagues. Then he comes up, they slot him at the 2 spot. He has a good zone contact rate. His chase contact rate is 82% right now, which would be like a decent zone contact rate for a lot of people. I think, like you said, I'm not sure how much power or speed you're going to get from him, but he's
3rd percentile in sprint speed.
Yeah. He's going to have a good batting average, and he's going to be scoring some runs, I think.
Yeah, and again, he's hitting number 2 right now in the Blue Jays lineup. So that's a very valuable spot when that offense starts getting to going a little bit here.
He's first and second base eligible in NFBC and ESPN. And what I like about the Blue Jays this year is I think they finally moved George Springer down from the leadoff spot permanently, because there's a lot of potency in the middle of that offense. Obviously, they're not 100% right now. Bo Bichette's not healthy, but Justin Turner's picked it up a little bit. So, at bats at top of a potentially dangerous lineup, I think is always worth an ad.
I know
what I see
we've
from
talked
him
about
is,
before.
Oh, real quick on the
Go ahead,
what I like about Horwitz, when I look to his profile, he was called up last year. Horwitz had 44 plate appearances, and he had a 27.3% strikeout percentage. Now that 27.3, like we just talked about, is down to 11.1. So it's pretty impressive. Yeah. How will that last? We'll see. We'll see if the 11.1 can stay that low. That's hard to do.
I don't know if it'll be that low, but even let's say it gets to 17 or 18, maybe even 20, that's still sub-league average,
Especially if he's walking, what is he walking 16% of the time right now?
Almost 17% of the time right now. Yeah. He's just been on, like, tonight. He was 0 for 0 with 2 runs and 2 walks last time I checked. I know he's maybe a bat or 2 after that, but
he's 0 for 2 now, and I think Bichette's leading off now. He just is his first game back, so maybe they can pick it up. Maybe they start rolling for the summertime.
Yeah, I think, and especially points league, Spencer Horwitz is a must-add. Maybe in category leagues, maybe he's a batting average runs guy. Maybe gives you like 2. So I wouldn't say maybe as much of a must add there, but definitely points leagues for sure. Before we continue, Doc, I have a question for you.
What's up?
Can you read me the scores of the baseball games going right now?
Oh my gosh. I know I'm not going to feel this.
Can you please just read me the scores of the games going right now?
What game do you want to know the score of first?
Please just tell me the scores of the game.
Cubs Giants is 0-0, bottom of the first.
Okay.
Twins Diamondbacks is 2-0, mid-second.
Okay.
Athletic Angels 0-0, mid-second.
Yeah! We cashed. What a night. Man, the boys are hot tonight. I just did a bet before we did. It was Hunter Brown to record the win. Hopefully if the Astros don't blow it. Knock on wood. Knock on every wood. If you're listening, knock on wood, because I don't want that bet to be jinxed. Hunter Brown to go 6 innings. He got the 6 innings. And then A's and Angels no run first inning. It was 25 or 50 to win $175.
I love how far the quality of this show has gone down that we take a mid-break segment to talk about David's betting addiction.
It was, you know what's going to be really bad is if the Astros lose this lead and they actually lose. They're going to be like, wow, you jinxed the hell out of that. So that's why our buddy Eddie's going to also knock on wood right now, because he just said that they're up 5-0 in the top of the 7th. So Astros just got to close this thing out for me here.
All right. Cold takes exposed. I think we should talk about Garrett Cole, though, because that happened tonight, too.
Before we talk about Garrett Cole, do you mind if we talk about Josh Lowe? Because he was brought up in the chat. Last 12 games, Josh Lowe is on fire. 2 steals tonight. Buy low candidate. Are you guys interested in Josh Lowe? Because he's somebody that I think had been a major frustration for most fantasy owners because he was platooned. He was struggling. Believe, what was it? I can't remember what he was against lefties last year, but it was really, really bad. Is he somebody that you guys are interested in, considering that he's been a heavy platoon player?
He's not platooning. He hasn't been platooning lately. And so he's played in each of the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games, hitting either second or fourth. So Lowe's not platooning, at least in the last 10 days. I don't think they've faced 10 straight righties. So I think that he's getting more full-time run. I like Lowe's talent. I really liked where he was going as a 2020 type of player. I think he could pick it up this season. I think he's really talented. I'd be jumping on him.
He had 20 homers and 32 stolen bases last year.
Yeah.
I don't know how you give up on someone that has shown that much of a ceiling.
But it's the inconsistency, because like it's one of those players, like the end of the year stats look good, but the roller coaster of the unusable games was the problem. I had him last year in a couple leagues, and I remember I actually dropped him in a few because he would go through stretches where he's only playing he was playing like 2 times a week. Or if he was playing, he'd be striking out a crazy amount and then have one game where he would hit 2 home runs. As evidence, if you look at his game log, he had a 2-homer, 4 RBI game. He had a 1-homer, 2 RBI game over his last 10 games. But then there's a couple 1 for 5, 1 for 4. He did have a 3 for 4 game. I mean, he is hot right now, but I think the problems last year was he was incredibly inconsistent, especially after he had a hot start last year too.
He played 135 games last year and 132 games between AAA and the majors in 2022. I mean, he's not necessarily platooning if he's getting close to like 80% of starting.
I mean, I do think with the Randy Arozarena struggles and the fact that the Rays need offense right now, they were a game under 500, I believe, going into tonight. That does give him more of a chance to actually get consistent playing time.
What I was going to say, David, I think you remember his July more so than anything, because talking about Josh Lowe, because April batted 342, May 271, June 260. Here's July, batted 197. After that, he batted 347 in August, 318 in September, and 250 in October. So he's pretty consistent. I think it's just that July must have just drove you nuts.
Were
most part,
all those months of like a full season's worth or a full month's worth of at bats, or were any of those months?
How about I can go down it. 76 at bats, 85, 77, 61, 75, 88. Yeah.
Okay, so pretty
Good amount.
consistent.
Yeah.
I guess
David, you're a cornerback backpedaling.
No, I mean, I think at the end of the day, he was very inconsistent last year. Like, so I do remember him starting out the year. He was one of my first pickups last year. Like, he was like the hot name to pick up at the beginning of last year. And then during those summer months, he kind of was dropped in a lot of leagues, and then he finished the year stronger at the end.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to argue
versus lefties. Like last year, he only had 67 plate appearances versus lefties, and then 434 versus righties. So that is frustrating in itself, not having a player that's only going to play maybe, 4 or 5 times a week versus.
And that's what I remember was, especially you combined that when he was in the slump, and it was very frustrating to be able to start him every day. What was his strikeout rate? Do you have that in front of you?
Yeah, 24.8.
Okay, so right about league average. I think league average is like 22.
Yeah, and this year he's striking out 28.2% of the time. But that happens a lot with injuries when you're just trying to find your footing and you haven't really seen too many pitches. But overall, with Lowe, I'd pick him up everywhere. I mean, that speed, he's barreling the ball 14.3% of the time, and the sprint speed's solid. So yeah, you love the tools.
Yeah, no, and he was always a good player in roto leagues because the 30+ steals. This was a points league play where I dropped him, and I had a little more trouble with the strikeout rate and the inconsistent playing time versus lefties. The trouble he had, obviously, in July looked pretty bad. But he's 100%.
That was a daily league.
I want to take back. They have faced 10 straight righties. The Rays. He hasn't started against any lefties lately. I got to take that back. I just checked on that. 10 straight righties they've had. Crazy.
That's crazy.
Okay,
yeah.
So, but at the end of the day, I think we're talking about roto. He's 100% an ad, and in points leagues, I think Eddie put it great in the chat. He's a peaks and valleys player, and so in points leagues, it's like you can add him, and then just be aware that there are gonna be down times when he's striking out. He's going 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, and you have to kind of eat that. But he's definitely playing well enough to deserve a pickup in any 12 or 15 team leagues for sure. So I think, he's not platoon proof, but he is somebody that's a must add. Someone that is not necessarily a must add because he's already rostered. Doc talked about him, Garrett Cole. Doc, I want to give you the floor because you're the one that I think that wanted to bring him up for sure on this pod.
I mean, it's not, I think it would be not our due diligence to talk about if you're concerned at all tonight. He went 4 innings, 7 hits, 6 earned, 4 walks, no strikeouts, and 4 home runs. The stat line isn't necessarily as worrying as the 0 strikeouts and 4 walks as someone that's had great command. But when I watched the game, and pitchers like him and Max Scherzer give up a lot of home runs because they throw a lot of strikes. But when you're not getting as many batters to chase, or you're walking more batters, that's when I really start to worry. If you have Garrett Cole, would you just try to sell him for anything right now? Like, think about pitchers like Kyle Bradish that had elbow injuries. They came back, looked decent, but the elbow injuries flared up, and now they're out for a long period of time.
I mean, you're selling him at his absolute lowest. Like, I feel like at this point I'm holding on to him, hoping that he at some point looks closer to what he did.
At this time, I feel like you have to hold on to him. Like, this is the lowest his value is. It's whether you think he's going to be on the IL again and you try to get something for him.
Well, I can tell you tonight, his max velocity on his 4-seamer was 99 miles an hour. So he did touch 99. Average for the game, his max was 98.9. Average velocity was 96.7, which is 1.3 miles per hour below what his normal average velocity is. As a matter of fact, all his pitches were down at least 1.3 miles an hour tonight. Slider was down 2 miles an hour. I don't think that's someone like Garrett Cole. It's going to be a good recipe for anything. In terms of swings and misses, he got 5 whiffs on 72 pitches. That's not very Garrett Cole-like. 21% CSW. So he's not getting any swings and misses or any basically nothing in terms of the strikeout department. I would like to say that this is kind of like the rock bottom for him. So at this point, if you guys have him, I'm assuming you're just hoping that there's better days ahead, that this is kind of like his quote unquote spring training. We thought that with Osman before, where he had a late start with Blake Snell. That maybe he just needs a couple starts to ramp himself up to get back to what we're hoping for Garrett Cole.
I will say this. Last week, I had a little bit of pushback on the Plazo podcast when I said I'd rather have Taj Bradley rest of season over Garrett Cole.
I was with you.
What did I say?
I don't know. In my mind, everyone was against me.
I don't remember what I said. I don't remember what I said, but I think I said Taj Bradley. I'll have to go back and listen. But Taj Bradley was the player. Taj Bradley was the player that was the one player I talked about on there as the one you have to go pick up. And since then, he's performed really well. Obviously, that was after the 12 strikeout game, but still. Yeah. Is anybody saying you're selling Garrett Cole right now if you have him?
I wouldn't sell him. I love that he hit 98.9 tonight, and he hit 98, he hit 97, 97. So his velocity's there. It's Garrett Cole. I don't have him anywhere because it's too scary to own. But if you have him, you can't. You've already waited 3-4 months for him to finally pitch. You're just stuck with him. Everyone's stuck with him.
So what's our thought on the fact that the Yankees are actually throwing him out there? Like, he's healthy enough for them to throw him out there. I think he's going to get it right. I mean, on that point you made earlier, David, I think Jordan Montgomery has started to right the ship lately. So, I mean, Cole, he might have a longer window where he's pretty poor for a while, but I think if he stays healthy, he's going to be good.
I don't think the comparison of Montgomery to Garrett Cole is accurate because you're talking about somebody just ramping up their arm versus somebody actually battling through an injury. I think the larger sample size has shown that pitchers with like some sort of elbow or shoulder injury that is somewhat significant, keeps them out for a period of time. They try to pitch through it, and then they just end up missing a longer period of time. Bradish, McClanahan, Kyle Wright last season. Star pitchers are going down left and right. I don't think anybody is as bulletproof as they seem now. So that's just what I'm saying.
I totally agree with you on that. I totally agree with you.
I think if you can get some value for Garrett Cole, I just can't see him pitching the rest of the season healthy, even if he, sat out and the Yankees are throwing him out.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's poopy logic. It's not really the most compelling argument, but like, this is a huge investment for them. I know it's a big season for them, but like, if they thought this was rushing, they wouldn't rush it. I feel like they think that this is as ready as he's going to be out there pitching.
Yeah,
they did not rush it.
And Eddie makes a good point that once Clark Schmidt comes back, they'll have 6 capable arms, so they could potentially limit some of Heal's innings, which I know they want to save him for the playoffs. And Garrett Cole can get some more time in between starts. That does open up some possibilities for them in that regard, especially after Heal just gave up 7 earned runs and just blew up against the same Baltimore Orioles team, who are one of the best hitting teams in baseball. So, Garrett Cole.
He did that against the Mets tonight, though.
But he had a bad outing, his first outing against the Orioles, too.
I wouldn't say it was awful, but
the Mets also have a decent lineup as well.
Would you trade him for Marcus Stroman?
Is that a shot, Doc?
I know. Honestly, I'm looking at the pitchers and
Why
somebody
Marcus Stroman?
I was going down points leagues and ESPN of guys that you could get some value for, but on draft day we're obviously not close to each other at all. Like I was thinking about saying Kyle Gibson, but I don't think you would stoop that far. But like Grayson Rodriguez, you're not probably getting Grayson for him.
Would you trade him for Taj Bradley?
That's a good question.
I would. I'm team Taj the rest of the year.
Marty, we're waiting on you. I'm looking at you.
I would rather have Taj Bradley. I just can't mess with the guy who's already injured with everything that's going on. Every one of my teams has been ransacked with injury, so I can't even like if you're kind of injured, I just can't do it. Just can't.
And Taj has been
I
a
will say
different
this
since he upped his splitter usage.
This is
Go ahead, I'm
piggybacking
sorry,
off
Mark.
what you were saying. All good. This is piggyback off what you were saying, Doc. Kind of, or maybe it was Art. But like Blake Snell right now is talking about how the Giants are kind of forcing him back before he is ready. I assume this isn't happening in New York. I think Garrett Cole has a little bit more weight, with who he is and what he's done for that organization. But I mean, if it can happen in San Francisco to a newly signed Blake Snell, it's not impossible that like the organization itself is saying, "Hey, you need to pitch." If you're kind of ready, we're gonna. I don't know. Or he is completely healthy, and I don't know. But I thought that was interesting what they're doing with Snell. They're pushing him to play when he's not ready.
Part of me wonders Cole has an opt-out this year, so he has 4 years, $144 million left. If he's trying to like pitch, show he's somewhat healthy, opt out, maybe just even get a decent raise. I mean, we've seen a 38-year-old Verlander get a 2-year, $61 million contract. I had to pause myself to make sure I said it right.
That was perfect.
I don't know if I can do that every time. It doesn't feel natural.
I think you just got to, you'll get the technique down.
Did Robbie Ray come back? And I missed that? Because Eddie said that Robbie Ray came in after Snell and looked much better.
Oh, maybe. I know he was throwing
he did.
Simulated games.
He was coming back soon. That's it. That was I feel like that was kind of under the radar, no?
I've seen that he was added, but I mean, you have to figure he is coming out from the timetable from Tommy John surgery. He missed after his third game, I think he missed the entire season. So falls in line with the timeline.
I mean, it had to have been over like the last day or two for it to be that far under the radar. While I'm pulling up Robbie Ray, I know this is a baseball podcast, but Mikal Bridges got traded to the Knicks.
Yeah, I saw that.
Isn't that pretty wild?
Woo!
They got Villanova Knicks all together.
They do.
So Robbie Ray pitched on Friday. No, sorry, not Friday. When did he pitch?
He did a rehab outing in AAA Sacramento.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, so he hasn't pitched yet.
Yeah.
Well, you're confused. Blake Snell was also at AAA. That's what it is.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So rehabbing at Sacramento. That's what it makes it. So it was at AAA that he relieved, and that's why I was like, I don't think I'm that much under a rock right now. So Robbie Ray is definitely an interesting pickup. He'll be added. I think he'll be someone that you can pick up soon, and not a bad ad there at this point in the season.
Outside of a 15-team league, does anybody want Robbie Ray? I'm asking you guys. I don't want him. I think in a 12-team league that if I was struggling and I needed some pitching and I needed to take a chance on an upside player, I would take him, but that would be the only scenario.
Yeah.
Like an OC? Like kind of like a deeper
or something
12.
like that. Yeah. Like, I mean, the strikeouts are always tantalizing with him. I mean, he just won a Cy Young a couple of years ago, so it's not like he's
in a contract year. I don't count those. There's an asterisk. 345 pitches last game, so he's going to have to get that pitch count up. I think he's a good streamer. I wouldn't consider rostering him.
I think David's right, though. He does have upside. I mean, he was Cy Young Award winner. I like that upside. I think that's a good pickup. I don't know when I'm about to pick him up now, but
he's already picked up in our home league.
I caution that as Robbie Ray historically struggles with command, and what's the last thing to come back from Tommy John surgery? It is command.
So you're saying that his walks over the first couple hours?
You might want to.
Well, we'll see. Art did a good job of coming up with a list of some players that we thought were relevant to talk about tonight. So I want to go back to that list. And let's talk about LC. Is there a specific one that you want to go to first before I just bring up a random name on here?
Yeah, I want to. Have you guys looked into Brett Wisely at all? I noticed he's starting to lead off for the Giants lately. And I started to look into him, and I think Wisely is a pretty intriguing guy. 25 years old. It's only his second chance, and he has a 93% zone contact rate. And his sprint speed is in the 69th, very nice percentile. And he had multiple 30 steal seasons in the minor leagues. I think this guy could be a player, a get on base and possible a speed threat for a Roto League team. And the fact that he does have a pretty modest 20% strikeout rate. He's not going to kill you there. He might be fine on points league teams as well.
Does anybody have any thoughts on
it? Just real quick, because I remember him last year. So he came up, he had 131 plate appearances for the Giants last year with a 30.5 K percentage. So that's a drastic difference. So I don't know. I mean, he had a 26 strikeout percentage in AAA. So it's a weird profile because he goes up from striking out all the time down to 15 and 20% over the last year. So he's trending in the right direction as far as his pitch recognition goes, because I already said his contact rate's good. So, and he's walking 13.6% of the time. I think I'm talking myself into that profile.
The multi-position eligibility is nice. He's second base, shortstop, outfielder eligibility, but he doesn't hit for a lot of power. He had 4 home runs in 32 minor league games this year. He has 2 in 28 games. To me, he's not having the same stolen base success. Like, he's facing major leaguers now. So I think you have to downtick the stolen base upside. To me, he's slightly above a Jag. Like, he's Kevin Newman-esque.
Don't you dog on Kevin Newman? He's been pretty hot.
You're a Kevin Newman guy. I know I'm talking to the wrong guy. I'm talking to the wrong guy if you're a Kevin Newman stan, but
one of these days, you know what we should do? You know what we should do one of these days? This is an off-season episode. Is have the other 3 construct the all-persons team of that
that'd be a great episode.
We would do like the all Lil Cheesecake team, and we come up with the players that he drafts the most and that he loves the most, and see how correct we are.
You guys would probably peg most of them. Yeah,
but we should do that we'll do that for all 4 of us. I feel like that'd be a really fun episode.
Be a good one.
Let's put that one in the bank.
Okay.
But going back to this, Doc, would you rather have your guy David Hamilton, your heartthrob, or would you rather have Wisely?
David Hamilton homered yesterday. 20 stolen bases on the season.
Are you going to be the David Hamilton guy forever?
You know what? I'm just going to take credit. Another player that you were kind of bashing, and they ended up having a good year.
I didn't bash him. I just said I don't know if I would add him, but I was wrong.
You put some cold water on it. It's okay.
Look, I understand when you have when you go from 6 to 12 for a guy, I don't want to get in your way. So
look. He's this year's JD Martinez in terms of guys I was right and you were wrong about.
Except you weren't making him that hardly, but yeah, I get you. How about let's go talk about another guy here. Let's talk about Jonathan India, someone that Doc dropped in our home league.
I hate you. God.
Is this the Jonathan India we can expect the rest of the season? He's been hot recently. Obviously, always a potential trade candidate right now for the Reds, who have acted like they aren't interested in him long term. Jonathan India, is he a must add in a 12-team or deeper league?
Absolutely. And he's someone that you shouldn't cut in a 12-team league. Obviously, this isn't sustainable, but over the last 7 days, 478 batting average, a homer and 2 RBIs, 4 doubles, 11 hits total. And about Cincinnati keeping him long-term, remember when we thought that there wouldn't be room for him, that the infield was so crowded? Well, they've lost CES most likely for the season. Noel V. Marte got suspended. Heimer Candelario has been taking days off for rest, but there's an everyday role for him. And that's not something that we felt confident saying in before the season.
It's actually interesting. He's had multi-hits in his last 4 games, had 2 steals tonight. And like you said, CES is out for the season. There is room for him to continue to get playing time. A 258 batting average on the season, which was, I think, like in the 210s just a few weeks ago. if he's out there, he 100% needs to be picked up right now. And again, 8 steals now on the season too, so he's giving you that aspect. I think he's an easy must add as well. I guess we all agree. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Especially since he's leading off for them. Another guy leading off on the list. I'll just segue to Jared Kelenic. I mean, I think Indy and Kelenic are probably 15 team owned for the most part. Check your leagues. But Kelenic's been leading off for the Braves for the last 2 weeks. And I think that's a really interesting development for him. Do you guys think that Kelenic can hold this spot?
I don't think he'll be able to hold it just because he's still striking out 30% of the time. But we have to keep in mind he's still only 24 years old. It's incredible.
What age, though, are you like, okay, he's still only like whatever?
26 would probably be where that would cut off would be.
I'm not adding him. And this can go as one of those moments where we'll look back on this in a month or two from now and I'll look like an idiot. But this is a firm I'm not adding him stance for me. And he still has the same exact problems that he's had in his career. You guys know what his strikeout rate is so far this year?
30.2.
Well, you looked it up, you cheater. But yes, 30.2%. Every single year he's been in the majors, he struck out at least 28.1% of the time. Each of the last 3 years, it's been 30% or higher. He does hit the ball hard, but the key problem with him is he doesn't hit anything besides the fastball. He's got a 316 batting average against the fastball this year, a 291 expected batting average. He's hitting 231 against breaking pitches and 189 against off-speed pitches. Both of those are actually higher than his expected batting average of 227 and 181. I just think at a certain point, it's like if you're pitching to him, you just don't throw him fastballs. Like he strikes out a ton. He can't hit anything besides fastballs. To me, this is one of those things, again, it's going to be too much of a liability and they're going to move him down in the lineup and he's going to just sit. I'm not adding him in any league. Maybe at worst case, a 15-teamer if I just need someone that's a chance at the top of a lineup until he goes cold. But this is not, I think, a revelation. This is not someone that I think that's realizing his potential. I think he's going to be dropped in a lot of leagues within the next couple weeks.
I definitely think they're going to be trying to buy on the market, trying to get another bat to get into that lineup, another outfielder. Because I think their plan coming into the season was Kelenic would be a strong side platoon player, but injuries have forced him into an everyday role. I think with him leading off, it's worth, like, if he's available in like a deeper roto league, it's worth a small bid to get him on your roster, to put him in for busy weeks, just because he could end up with like 5 or 6 runs in that week or something like that, just off of 1 or 2 games where he's productive. So I think David, I think you lay a good case that he's probably not going to stay there. Yeah.
I just can't see it. You want someone that's going to get on base a good amount, which his strikeout rate does not allow him to get on base consistently. We have a question from MP31. Need to drop someone for pitching help in a Roto 5x5 league. Have too many middle infielders. As you drop Joey Ortiz, David Hamilton, Spencer Horwitz, or Nick Gonzalez. Those are 4 really nice pickups. You can't drop Hamilton because of the steals. I'm not dropping Joey Ortiz either.
I would say Nick Gonzalez is the first of the drops. 053 batting average over the last 7 days. He's won for his last 19. But saying that, he did go 3 of 4 tonight. And I'm not saying Nick Gonzalez is someone to drop. I'm just saying out of these 4.
I think it's close between Gonzalez and Horowitz, but I think I'd go Gonzalez as well.
Yeah, Horowitz has some notable upside. Nick Gonzalez, he's going to hit for solid contact, and that's it. That's all he can do. He's going to be a 280 batting average with nothing around him.
Now, Eddie does make a point that now that everybody's healthy for the Red Sox, that Hamilton might not play every day, but I do think that he is still you got to keep him because he's had 20 steals right now already. Like even when he came in the other day, he was injured. He came in for a pinch run and he got a steal. I think you can't cut the stolen bases at all. Like that's a must roster in a roto league. So I think that's where we stand on that one. I like my guy Eddie also. He gave us the update for the Astros game. It's 5-1. They get one more inning in the ninth. And then your boy Mike's $175 richer. And then MP31 then also asked, do you trust Tommy Pham in a leadoff spot for White Sox versus Jared Kelenic for the Braves?
I think Pham is a good pickup. I think he's fine. I think they're also going to trade him to a better squad. I think Pham should be picked up for sure.
I feel like Tommy Pham has
agree.
been passed around more than any other player in the last 4 years.
And Pham is a good hitter, as we've seen in every place he goes, he produces. So maybe he even gets traded to a better lineup. And that's when his vanity value is going to be even better. So I would rather take Pham as well at this point for that reason. So I hope that helps MP31. And then Eddie adds that maybe Pham and Crochet get traded to the Braves. That'd be pretty wild if that happened, but I wouldn't say it is out of the realm of possibility. So we will see. I think Murph is a Red Sox fan, if I'm not mistaken. Won't give up a chance to lead the AL in steals, but they will keep their runners in the lineup. So that's his thoughts on that. Elsie, let's go back to your list. Let's talk about another player here that we haven't got to, and let's talk about J.P. Crawford. What are our thoughts on J.P. Crawford right now? He is, I believe, was at 35% owned in Yahoo and 46% owned in ESPN leagues.
Good job reading
4
my
home runs on
handwriting.
the season.
That's in
handwriting
June.
is
4 home
like-
runs in June.
4 home runs in
And
June. So
In
heating up.
June, 1 steal, and he has 24 runs plus RBIs in 22 games this month. So it's possible Seattle's picking up on offense with him leading off. I'm always hesitant on Crawford because he doesn't generally steal a lot, but at the end of the season, he puts up numbers. Do you guys trust him? Would you pick him up? He's not very widely owned.
I would
Trying
pick
to
him
pull-
up, and I'm J.P. Crawford. I drafted him in Glarf, and I dropped him because he got injured. Lucas Berry, of course, picked him up, and yeah,
So definitely Adam.
he's at the dude every time.
Marty,
It's unbelievable.
Marty, does Lucas Berry know that you're this much of a fanboy about him?
No, I don't. I've never. No, he doesn't know. No, I'm not.
You know what we should do is I think we
It's like when you
should,
like.
we should-
I didn't mean for this to happen. It's just like watching him make moves, and then they instantly work out. You're just like, what do you do? But
Well, I think
I'm
we'll
in
have
on
a-
J.P.
He's a
Crawford.
stock trader of MLB.
Yeah. JP Crawford, sprint speed 27th percentile, but only 2 steals again. So am I under the illusion that I thought JP Crawford stole more bases than that? He stole a total over the last 3 years combined of 7 steals.
He looks like
Yeah.
he's a shortstop. You would think that he would be someone who stole bases.
He's an
Right,
athletic
yeah.
shortstop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the most he's ever had was 6 in season. That was in 2020, the shortened season, oddly enough.
Yeah, 24 steals in 8 seasons for his career. So he's not going to steal bases. Walk rate, double-digit percentage walk rate, very manageable strikeout rate, hits the ball decently hard as well. Hits atop the Seattle lineup for what it's worth, although their lineup is very weak and very strikeout prone.
Mhm.
Only on the season hitting 207, 305 OB. I want to see his expected batting average of 240, 405
Okay.
slug. So his expected stats definitely show that there's even more room for improvement, especially with how hard he hits the ball. I don't think he's a bad ad. Especially hitting atop the lineup is always a plus for that too. I think where he shows the most regression positively is on fastballs, a 186 batting average, a 254 expected batting average on fastballs. So Yeah, I think it's a solid ad for sure.
He's streaky too. We know that he can get on hot stretches, and it's not
Yeah.
fluky.
Yeah, he had
so
some
I don't like him as
crazy
much
hot stretches last year. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like him as much as some of the other players we talked about, but I think he's a good ad.
David, let me ask you as a Twins fan, Trevor Lawrence. I feel like whenever I look at a random box score, he homers, and then I bet on him to homer, and he goes 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he's a streaky player. He's not like one of their consistent producers, but I mean, on the season, 257 batting average, 309 OBP, 432 slug, 7 homers and 1 steal. He's fine. Again, he's not a must add because you add him after he's the player that you add after he has a big game, and then for the next week underperforms, and then you drop him, and then he has a big game. Like that's the kind of guy he's been since he's been with the Twins. And the tools are there. Like he's got a sub 20% strikeout rate. He has a 44.1% hard hit rate. 111.1 max EV, 91.9 exit velocity. Like he hits the ball hard, has a good strikeout rate, but it's never consistent from him. And that's, I think, the main reason is because anything besides fastballs, and that's been his whole career. He's got a 352 batting average against fastballs this year, but a 222 average against breaking pitches and a 122 against off speed. Pretty much the same thing the year before. Like, again, another player that only hits fastballs. So I think that's why he's very inconsistent, especially if you go against a pitcher that has really good secondary pitches. So he's the type of guy you pick up. He's going to probably have, if he plays 6 games, 5-6 games, he's going to have 1 game that's really good. And then he's going to have probably like 3 or 4 subpar games. But that's him in a nutshell, I think.
I think he is a good, because he's playing mostly against righties, though. If you see them with a long stretch of righties, I think he's a good hitting streamer. You could spark, like you said, some of those good games. If he gets a run of righties where he gets to play every day for 4 or 5 straight days, I think he's good. I hope they start playing him every day. I think, but I mean, they're trying to win a division, so.
They're not going to get there. The Guardians are way too good this year. Guardians and Royals, I don't think they have a shot against them this year. I will tell you, guess how many at-bats he has against lefties this year?
7. I'm guessing.
Oh, you looked it up, you cheater.
16.
No, I guessed. That was
you
a guess.
really? Yeah, it's 7.
That was a guess.
Yeah, he has 7 at-bats, 141 against righties.
Mm-hmm.
So that says anything. That's how much they trust him against left-handed pitching this year. When we talk about, is there I forgot there's a question in the chat here from MP31. Can he drop David Fry for Andujar or Pham, or should I believe in Fry rest of season? I would drop him for Pham personally. I don't know about you guys.
How many catchers is the team?
That's my question.
I guess give us the context. How many catchers do you have in your league and are using him? I'm assuming you're using him as a catcher because he is catcher eligible, so that makes the most sense. He's, I know, outfield eligible and first base eligible too. So I'm gonna assume right now.
Am I in the minority that I'm not a huge Tommy Pham guy this year?
I think once he gets to a better team, he's going to be really good.
But if he was this good, he was unsigned for a while. It just seems like he always wears out his welcome. Is 4 homers and 14 RBIs and 4 stolen bases. Yeah, you're keeping David Fry as your catcher. I don't think there's.
I think you drop him for Pham. Maybe I'm alone in that though. I think Andujar is not even in discussion here.
I agree.
Tommy Pham, 4 homers, 14 RBIs, 4 steals. It's not lighting the world on fire. It's balanced, but it's not a lot in one category.
Yeah, so he has Contreras. And
he was using Fry for outfield. Yeah, get rid of him.
Yeah.
I mean,
then drop him.
Yeah.
He's out of here.
There we go. And 1 down in the 9th for the Astros. Let's go. 2 more outs. Don't join a fantasy football league with Tommy Pham. So I think that's where we would go with that one. You guys want to bring up one more guy here tonight?
I have a guy.
Go ahead.
Mhm.
He just hit a home run. He's a first baseman for your Colorado Rockies. Michael, is it Toglia?
I think so.
Is that how you say that?
I think so.
Doc,
yeah.
he's your boy, no? You got him in TGFBI?
I'm feeling like a bad week of cutting Toglia and James MacArthur. This has been
James
a brutal
MacArthur?
show for me. I cut James MacArthur. Marty and
Why?
I had a big discussion about this. So he hadn't gotten a save in 18 days, and Chris Stratton got the save opportunity that was available. And MacArthur has a 4.74 ERA, a 1.4 whip. And I asked myself, do I feel comfortable playing that? And trying to be more proactive than reactive in cutting him. And I have Emmanuel Clase. So I have 40 saves, which is second in my league. So I felt like, okay, I wasn't struggling, but I should have looked at who he was playing. Now, in regards to Toglia, he had 6 or 7 games at Coors last week. So I always viewed him as a 1-week streamer. He hits below 200. So I didn't want him to sink my batting average. But what did he do tonight?
I just saw that he hit a home run, and I know that you rostered him. That's the only reason why I brought him up.
He does have back-to-back home run games, but yeah, hitting 194 on the season, I'm not going to bank on that on a non-Coors
Your guy almost
week.
tried to take my money from me, Eric. That's what he almost did.
Who's my guy?
Taglia. I'm just waiting.
Oh,
Just waiting for that bet to cash, baby. Wait for that bet to cash. Yeah, let's go.
what? He's Michael Toglia, first base and outfield eligible. So that's what I used him in exactly for, is when they had 2 home games or 2 home stands at Coors. And I think he's a very, very viable streamer. So I would keep out for weeks on that in the future.
Yeah, he has almost 14% barrel rate right now. And his XBA is up around 220. His Ks are gonna make him really volatile, but I think he's definitely a Coors streamer. I actually, off of a big Coors week, I just picked up Hunter Goodman as well. I am not sure if he's a Coors only streamer, but I like Hunter Goodman a little bit better than Michael Toglia. Do you guys like Hunter Goodman?
I've seen him being talked about a lot.
Yeah,
I'm Toglia barely, but they're both similar guys, like below 200-ish, some power, outfield eligibility. Is Toglia or is Goodman first base eligible too?
No, I think he used
Just
to be a
outfield
catcher.
eligible.
Yeah, he used to be a catcher, so that would have been dope. But
He's got
I
7
think-
home runs though.
He
Yeah,
is
he had a
first base
big week.
eligible. He is first base eligible.
Oh, he is.
Yeah. I mean, it's 194 versus 196, 7 home runs and 18 RBIs versus 7 home runs and 21 RBIs. That's like first base outfield eligible. That is like the exact similar profile.
But he's got a 43.5% hard hit rate. Does not walk. 114.7 max EV, which is top 4% of baseball.
yeah,
So he hits the ball really hard. Fastball hitter.
It's a split.
Yeah.
It's the splits for Hunter Goodman. He hits really well versus lefties, but he's batting 258 against lefties. So if for some reason the Rockies have a bunch of lefties out there, I think you should start him. But righties, he's batting 167.
So
What if you
I
just
can't look back at his entire game log, but he has 7 home runs on the year, and at least the last 5 have been in Colorado.
yeah. I mean, and I don't mind managing a roster where I have like a Colorado player that I swap in and out. I did that with Ryan McMahon all last season and got a pretty good composite player out of it. So I think I'm going to try. I might try that with Goodman until he stops producing at Coors. And Toglia, I think if you are on top of it, it's a viable strategy, because if you have another person to sub in, it's a viable strategy. I try to do it sometimes, and I think it works out pretty well.
I'll say this for Toglia. In 2 weeks ago when I picked him up in TGFBI, I put $28 bid on him, and I outbid someone who had 25. And I think they had the exact same strategy I did, because you typically don't see guys with Taglia's profile get that high a bid unless somebody just plans on streaming them.
Fair enough. Astros won, so I'm happy.
Hunter Goodman, no home runs on the road this year, 7 home runs at home.
I mean, is it fair to say that half the hitters in Colorado's lineup you're only playing when they're at Coors?
I don't know if I would play anyone outside Ryan McMahon.
Outside of Coors, maybe a little Ezekiel Tovar,
Yeah, like those two probably, right? Like, so
yeah,
maybe if you have Charlie Blackmon, maybe. I know he's
on the IL.
yeah.
Oh, is he on the IL right now? Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's a select few anyway. So,
When's
gentlemen,
the last time
any
the Rockies pitcher has been even borderline decent?
Ubaldo
Hampton?
Jimenez. I'm always ready for that answer.
Mike Hampton. I mean,
Ubaldo
Ubaldo Jimenez. Yeah. But I'm talking about even even John Gray-esque level.
Herman Marquez. Remember Marquez?
Herman Marquez. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a good answer.
Yeah.
That man's arm was like destroyed. Like he's been out for 2 years, right? Or his shoulder, whatever it is. LC, you're on mute.
Honestly, I don't remember what happened to him. He just kind of disappeared.
Wait, Herman Marquez, in a recent outing with Single A Fresno, 2.1 innings, 6 hits, no walks, 4 strikeouts. That's a Herman Marquez real line.
He's coming back from TJ, right?
It was something. It was that or something like with his shoulder.
You know, in a couple of years, we're going to be seeing so many pitchers coming back from TJ that are good. We'll see Shane McClanahan, Sandy, Spencer Strider. Like, we're missing out on a lot of good arms right now.
Orioles pitchers. Multiple Orioles pitchers are on there.
Lucas Giolito.
Yeah,
The answer to
it is
Lucas Giolito and Sandy Alcantara 2 years later is neither.
That is true. That is true. Gentlemen, is there any other players we would like to discuss tonight before we close the pod?
I just thought it was funny that Dallas Keuchel was traded to Milwaukee.
Yeah, why is Dallas Keuchel even out there anymore?
That's what I was wondering.
There
This
was like
year?
85 miles an hour.
That happened
The
this
Brewers
year.
acquired
Yeah.
Dallas Keuchel from the Mariners on Tuesday in exchange for cash considerations.
Here's $1. Take him off our hands.
Yeah, exactly.
I would love if they actually showed the amount of cash they gave. I wonder if pitching prospects cry when they get drafted by the Rockies. Can you imagine if you were like a legit pitching prospect and that's who you got drafted to, that like you already know that you're going to have the odds stacked against you to have a productive major league career based on where you pitch?
I wouldn't sign.
Probably not. Yeah.
Paul
Yeah.
Skeens is not signing that contract. Paul, you know,
true.
like if you're elite, no, I'll wait. I'll see you guys next year.
Marty had talked about on a show previously, you know, the Rockies are a business, they're an employer, and how, you know, players that have signed there, like I think you said Chris Bryant, that they didn't put him in a good position to succeed. So why would you go into that?
Yeah. I think that if I were a good pitching prospect, I think I would do exactly what Marty said. Because I mean, you get obviously the money up front, which is great, but at the end of the day, like you're trying to also play for a second contract, and it's not going to be what you want while you're there. James Coffey asks, in a categories league, would you drop Bobby Miller for Justin Steele or Shane Baz, or Shane Baz? I would drop him for Justin Steele in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I would rather just own Justin Steele at this point.
Mhm.
Rest of the season, no matter what.
Yep. He's shown over his last like 300 innings that he's a heavy fastball slider guy, but it works. Even though the little rough patch he had when he first came off the IL, he's as trustworthy as the second tier of pitchers come. So I think it's a must drop for Steele at this point.
I mean, I know Miller lost at Colorado, but did he pitch? Why is everyone? Did he pitch today?
Yeah, he pitched
He's
today.
coming off the IL recently.
Okay.
I'm not saying Bobby Miller's a drop candidate. I'm just saying if he's the worst pitcher on your team and you can get Justin Steele and he's the one.
It's similar to that Nick Gonzalez debate.
Yeah, for sure.
What did, okay, all right. So what did Miller do today?
He was bad tonight. I just saw he gave up 3 runs in the first few innings to the White Sox. I didn't see what his final line was.
And with Miller, I mean, we have to be concerned. He sits so close to his max velocity on every pitch. He's just, he's a ticking time bomb in that sense.
Is Heston Kjerstad going to get at bats this call up? I don't roster him yet. I don't think he's a must.
Your guess is as good as mine. Yeah.
The team's so
I would
good.
assume he's good, but they have such a talented bet lineup that I think they put him at the bottom of the lineup.
The team's so good. It's impossible to say.
Yeah. I don't think he's a must add at this point. So if he's out there, I'm not rushing to get him.
I mean, they sent down Kowser to bring him up, and Kowser was the guy we thought was the call up that we thought was going to stick with them. So, I mean,
he was at the beginning of the year. He looked great, and then he really just flamed out. Murph asks, off topic, what are your guys' thoughts on the pesky pull at Fenway? Saw a Facebook post where people were crying it gives up so many home runs, but it actually doesn't.
I've seen some of the dinkiest home runs in my life in that little corner of Fenway Park, but it's the field, and that's what's beautiful about baseball is everywhere you played, it's a little bit different. So I think it's pretty dope that there you can have like a 305-foot home run.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. It's what makes baseball. And I mean, that's for such a boring game from, most of the time, it's fun when there's a couple things like that. So I like it.
It's so unique because basketball and football, everything's uniform, but baseball, every park is different. So I always like the variety. If I was a pitcher, maybe I wouldn't like it if I was pitching in Fenway, but outside of that, I don't think I would have a problem with it. And as Eddie puts, Doc, our guy, Andrew Benintendi, I think took Bobby Miller deep. That was like the first guy we were in on fantasy baseball years ago. We were like, Andrew Benintendi's the sleeper of the year when he was back like a second year with the Red Sox or whatever it was. That was like our first like sleeper. I'm not telling you who my sleeper is this year. Yeah, Andrew Benintendi. All right. On that note, I think we're over an hour in. Everybody that was in the live chat tonight, appreciate all you guys. You make this show that much better. And if you guys want to be a part of the live chat, usually every Sunday night, right around between 7 and 8 o'clock, we are here. If it's not Sunday, it is posted on YouTube when we're going to go live. So just keep up to date with that by subscribing and hit the bell notification for whenever we do go live. You can hop in. Appreciate you guys again. If you're listening on the podcast platform, anywhere you get podcasts, we appreciate you there as well. But for Doc, for Marty, for Lil Cheesecake, I'm DMendy. We're going to make like a bread truck and we're going to haul these buns. We'll talk to you guys next week.